Welcome back to this week's episode of the Goonery. Brandon and I here to discuss the trade deadline, which ended up being a lot more crazy than we all expected a few weeks ago. Some opening notes on Bears training camp and just the Triple H takeover in WWE. But Brandon, first and foremost, I just want to say I'm sorry about the St. Louis Cardinals screwing the pooch and not getting Juan Soto.
And if you're a Cardinals fan, you knew it wasn't going to happen. And it was all this smoke about how many prospects we had to give up, and then we have probably the best prospects to give up, relative to the Padres and Dodgers. But from reports, because this was debunked yesterday during the press conference before the Cubs game yesterday by John Mozeliak, president of baseball operations, unfortunately. He said that Dylan Carlson was not the reason why this deal did not go down. And I am going to call out John Mozeliak for being a liar. And I'm not going to lie. It's not lying in a sense where he's being a bad liar, but we just know. Because clearly this was a PR move that if I take the pressure off of this young kid who is now going to have the weight of the world on his shoulders, because he's going to be known as the guy we did not want to give up for Juan Soto, a generational talent that's 23 years old and is going to be winning MVPs deep into his future. He wanted to protect Dylan Carlson at all costs. But here's the issue. While you can do that, we have to talk about the real issue of not wanting to get rid of Dylan Carlson for Juan Soto. And I'm going to tell y'all something. I like Dylan Carlson a great deal, but he is never, and I mean never, going to be the caliber player of Juan Soto. And that's no disrespect to him, but that's just the facts. And this goes back to years ago when Miguel Cabrera was playing for the Florida Marlins at the time. And the Cardinals had a chance to get Miguel Cabrera. Not many people know this. They had a chance to get him. But I don't know if this name is going to ring a bell for you. But the one prospect they did not want to give up in that deal, Kobe Rasmus. I don't know if you remember Kobe Rasmus very much, but when he got up to the majors with the Cardinals, he lasted a season and a half. Think about that for a second. A guy who was so highly touted, the Cardinals were in love with Kobe Rasmus until they gave him a reason to not be in love with him. This is a reoccurring issue with the St. Louis Cardinals, and this could be the reason why Nolan Arenado is going to heavily weigh the option of opting out after the season. And he made it very, very clear that if we're not in a winning environment, I don't want to be here. I don't know if that was his exact words but this is his words verbatim. And you are basically wasting the last season of Yadier Molina and Albert Pujols and Adam Wainwright. And I know nothing is ever settled in the MLB. I've said this in the past, not all the time that the best teams in the MLB win the World Series, but you have to think for a team that's fighting for a wild card spot and fighting to stay alive in the NL Central, that people picked us to win going into this season. You can't feel good if you're a Cardinals fan, especially if you can't get a game change like that, all because you want to keep the same old lame-ass Cardinals way intact.
Yeah, and the Cardinals have always been one of those teams that are just traditionalist at their core. I mean, just me watching it from the outside perspective, am I still jealous of how the Cardinals operate being a White Sox fan? Oh, absolutely. 100%. I would take Cardinals ownership in front office over the White Sox, but it is what it is. I never thought they were going to land Juan Soto. I always thought he was going to somehow end up with Dodgers, if we're being completely honest. I just thought they were going to work their voodoo magic and somehow, some way, have him out there for the next year and a half. And guess what? Spoiler alert. I bet he signs with them in a year and a half or 2 years whenever this contract's up.
Could be.
And if I'm a Cardinals fan, though, if I were you, I would be more upset about the lack of pitching additions. I mean, yeah, you added Quintana, but if you're going to go out and get Quintana and you knew you weren't going to land Soto, why wouldn't you go out and get Carlos Rodon?
At the least.
If you're going to get a left-handed starter, why aren't you going to exert a little bit more resources for a pitcher who is flat out better, if we're being honest, if he stays healthy? Yes, Rodon has his health issues. I mean, again, White Sox fan, I know that, but there's no reason that if you don't want to get those resources out of there to get Juan Soto, I don't understand the logic essentially from the Cardinals. And if Rodon was to go to St. Louis, he was to like St. Louis, he still has another year. He could opt into that contract, and I'm sure that kind of made the situation muddy for his trading likelihood, and that's probably why he didn't go anywhere. But I don't know. I was amazed by the Giants at the deadline, if we're being completely honest, for their lack of movement either way, because they're a week away from making a run at the wild card. If we're being honest, just looking at that roster, and there was a lot of really confusing things at the deadline. I mean, Whit Merrifield being traded to the Toronto Blue Jays when 2-3 weeks ago we couldn't even play in Toronto because he's not vaccinated. So Toronto fully acknowledging that, like, oh yeah, we're gonna let Whit make that decision. Don't you think you could go out and get another super utility guy who has the jab? I mean, if we're being completely honest, I don't understand that. And then you have aside from Whit Merrifield, you have their lack of moves. Then you have the Red Sox. Yeah, they traded away Vasquez, but then they bring on Hosmer. Yes, they had no first baseman, but the logic of the Red Sox there makes no sense.
There was a couple of confusing teams at the deadline. Red Sox didn't know if they were buying or selling. The Cubs didn't go full detonation on their rebuilding, and a lot of weird stuff happened. But back to the Cardinals, I want to remind people of something. When people said the Cardinals needing pitching depth last year, you want to know who John Mozeliak went out and so valiantly got? J.A. Happ and John Lester. You want to know what those two guys are doing right now? They're sitting on the couch enjoying retirement. And Jordan Montgomery, getting him, I think still, I think I like the move. Very puzzling to give up Harrison Bader, considering I was never his biggest fan. I was always that person that would give him his credit where he's due. He's an excellent center fielder. The Yankee fans are going to love him in center field. But it was puzzling for the standpoint of right field is a hole for the Cardinals. You would have thought, considering they were going to make that move to get Harrison Bader out here, shift Dylan Carlson to center field, that you will go out there, get Carlos Rodon and Jock Peterson. It made perfect sense. And now you have a hole in right field where it's being platooned by Corey Dickerson and Lars Nootbaar, and Juan Yepes is going to eventually come back. And you can't feel comfortable with that. I don't know if they're waiting for their top prospect, Jordan Walker, to improve in right field so they can bring him up for next year. But the problem is, we're thinking about future plans when this year you can very much make the playoffs. You could very much win the NL Central. And if you, in a move like getting Soto would have made all the world's difference in getting that. And I get there's Cardinal fans who say, you know, Soto would have been cool, but we got to get pitching depth and whatnot. But it's always the low-hanging fruit moves that people think that Mozeliak think that's going to be moving the needle. No, it never does. It never does. You know what's needle moving? You getting Paul Goldschmidt and Noah Arenado, because I guarantee you take those guys out the lineup, you don't make those moves a couple of years ago, the Cardinals are a rebuilding team at this moment in time.
Yeah, it's very, very odd to say that, but yes. And especially with the way the Brewers kind of operated at the deadline too. I know Hader has not been as good as he's been in years past, but how do you see that move with the team was in first place in your division, trading their, I'm going to say it, semi-generational closer with how talented he is with his left hand, and you don't supplement your major league roster. I mean, I could go on and on this topic for God knows how many hours. You mentioned Jock Peterson. Jock Peterson's a guy who made sense for both of our teams.
Yep.
You mentioned platooning in right field with just subpar players. The Chicago White Sox at the moment in right field are deploying a combination of Gavin Sheets, who is a first baseman by trade. He's a career minor leaguer, if we're being completely honest. He should not be on a major league roster more than platooning as a first base or DH role. He's got good pop. He shut up all the haters yesterday when he went deep against the Royals in a blowout after everyone was all pissed they didn't supplement the outfield. You have a washed A.J. Pollock who doesn't like to play right field. And that leaves us with Eloy Jimenez to play the other corner outfield spot, who should never touch the field, and Andrew Vaughn, who is also a first baseman. And all of those people in the outfield, Andrew Vaughn has a damn near net zero WAR this year because of his defense, but yet he's hitting 297 and getting on base at a damn near 350 clip. It just makes no sense. Neither of these teams, Jock Peterson, I'm sure, I don't know for sure. Jock Peterson, probably a guy the Cardinals have been linked to in the past in off seasons or past trade deadlines. Feels like it's every year with the White Sox. So I thought this year was the year. Damn, this actually makes sense. It's low budget. Sox don't have to really overextend themselves to get him. Hell, I'm sure you would have been happy with Joey Gallo too. It seemed like he needed a change of scenery. He plays great defense. Mm-hmm. Yes, everyone thought he was going to hit 1 million homers at the short porch in New York.
And here's the thing too:
change of scenery. Some guys just need that change of scenery, and you just know he's going to go out to LA and he is going to hit 20 bombs by the playoffs.
Yes, I was. And you know something? We know this already. Not everyone's built for LA. It is what it is. Not built for New York. They're not built for New York. And you know what? You can tell. I don't know if you've seen the transcripts of his interview with.
That is some of the saddest shit I've read in a long time in relation to sports.
I listen to sports talk radio every day, and the vitriol that he gets is so insane to me. Keep this in mind, y'all. The Yankees are the best team in baseball record-wise. They're the best team, and you know what? They don't even talk about it. Nope. They don't even talk. They say, oh, my God, Joey Gallo is so bad. How is he so bad? When are they going to get rid of him? And I guarantee he hears that stuff. The LA Dodgers are going to welcome him with open arms. And if I'm the Cardinals, I'm saying, damn, if I'm going to give up an outfielder, and if Joey Gallo don't work out with the Cardinals, that's fine. At least I'm platooning with somebody that's proven that can hit home runs. As a lefty presence in the lineup, they need that. They need that in the worst way. You're not going to fill that void with Corey Dickerson and Lars Newbar. It doesn't happen. But if you told me you platoon with Joey Gallo and those two other guys, I'll be okay with it. But it is true in the case of Joey Gallo that he's going to be so much better with the Dodgers. I'm willing to bet that too. If he hits 20 home runs before the playoffs, I won't be surprised.
Me either. And do you want to know what? I saw this tweeted out yesterday. I can just already envision a Joey Gallo bomb in the World Series, Dodgers at Yankee Stadium, shutting all those greasy gabagool motherfuckers up. And God, it would just make me so happy. I hate Yankee fans so goddamn much. And then just to pivot, this is way out of left field, but just going to the Padres, because we touched on the Brewers trading Hader. We obviously talked on Soto. AJ Preller, if he had Stephen Cohen's money, could take over the fucking world, because he's about to have over $1 billion allocated between Fernando Tatis Jr., Juan Soto, and Manny Machado. And that's in San Diego, a market that had to have an NFL franchise leave because they didn't have enough fans. Like, people saying that market size matters now, it doesn't. It's a load of shit. And it's just a load of shit.
I tell you something. I have to ask you. I don't really remember like that one hyped up team going into the regular season and didn't get the job done. I want to say the last team that really had that type of hype was the Padres when they got on with Matt Kemp. They got one of the Upton brothers. I can't remember which one. I think it was BJ or Melvin, whichever one he's going by these days. I forgot who else they got, but that was a team that people said they were going to go to the playoffs or possibly the World Series. How, if they don't win the World Series and the tenure of Juan Soto, how big of a disappointment is that? Like, where does it rank? Because I would have to think that's at least top 3.
I mean, it's more of a disappointment than the Philadelphia Eagles dream team. If we're like,
100%.
And I mean, just top to bottom, star power in that lineup. You have Machado, Tatis. Now you have Josh Bell. You have Soto. And they go out and get Brandon Drury, who's having a career year. I mean, Trent Grisham is going to be their 9-hitter. And guess what?
It's ridiculous.
He's good.
He's really good. He's really good.
The rotation, you have Clevenger, Darvish, Blake Snell, who's been a little underwhelming, yes. And then they shore up the bullpen with Hader. I mean, and do you want to know the craziest part? That team still might not win their division.
Yeah.
That team still might not win their division. And that's crazy to me. But, I mean, if they don't do it in the next 2 years, I don't think the Padres ever will, if we're being honest, because I don't see Soto being there long term. I don't know about you. I don't think that's a long-term possibility. I think it's going to end up being one of two teams. It's going to be the Dodgers or it's going to be the Yankees. And I don't think that there's any other way around it, unfortunately, just because those two can buy whatever they want. And I don't think Judge will be back in New York. So I think that's going to free up some space for them. And it's just wild. Could you, at 23 years old, turning down $440 million? I mean, it's the wildest trade of all time. 23 years old, World Series MVP, however many times Silver Slugger at this point, I think 3 or 4 time All-Star. It's going to end up going down as one of the dumbest trades of all time.
It very well may be. And I tell you, if you want to set your franchise back and not win a World Series, oh boy, I mean, this has to be one of the biggest. I'm not even going to relegate this to baseball. Like you mentioned the dream team. I don't know if you include the Nash, Kobe, Howard Lakers.
But I saw a picture real quick the other day. Standing next to each other, it was Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Juan Soto. Do you want to know what that just is going to be now from here on out? It's going to be the new KD, Harden, and Westbrook.
Yep.
And it's just a small market team that just they couldn't do it anymore. And it's just insane that you had that level of talent, and that doesn't even include Schwarber and Max Scherzer also being on that. Yeah. It's just wild to me how quick things change.
But it's also kind of worrisome if you are going to be a franchise player in Washington, because they can't hold on to their players. They let go 2 generational talents. And I mean, where did they go from here? Like, how long is this rebuild going to be? I know they got some good players from the Padres, but how long is this rebuild actually going to be is the real question.
Yeah. I mean, between that, the Cubs, I don't even know what the Cubs are doing now. Speaking of rebuilds, you have the Cubs, you have the Tigers, who really didn't do anything either. They kind of stayed put for the most part. 2 teams that are for sure going to be going back into a rebuild. Then you have my White Sox, who kind of look like this offseason they might be heading towards another rebuild or retool after all they did was go out and get a 35-year-old left-handed reliever, Jake Diekman, who walks more than 1 hitter per inning and also strikes out more than 1 hitter per inning. I already voiced my frustrations about Gallo, Jock Peterson. I wasn't expecting to get Soto. And the fact that White Sox front office is floating out that, we made an offer for Ohtani, that's enough. We had a seat at the table. That's just what I am forever.
That infuriating.
Fan, because that offer included maybe 2 guys off the major league roster and maybe their top 3 prospects. That's not going to be enough. If you want to get Ohtani, you want to know who you're trading from the White Sox roster. That starts and ends with Luis Robert and Dylan Cease, and then you have to add on prospects.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 other guys on the major league roster. I mean, you're getting a Cy Young caliber pitcher and an MVP caliber player in the field and in the lineup. Ohtani, will he be back in LA? No, I don't think so. I think he'll be traded this offseason because regardless, they'll be able to get whatever they want for him. And I don't know where he ends up, but I will forever be pissed off with the White Sox front office, Jerry Reinsdorf having Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams as his puppets, just saying, we tried. And the most bullshit thing about this is I tweeted yesterday, let me find the fake quote I made up about Rick Hahn, but it was
I swear.
Yeah, I mean, essentially it was here. I said that we tried to make trades to improve this roster, but we weren't comfortable giving up certain guys from our system of Major League roster. Unfortunately, nothing materialized, but when this roster is healthy, I'd put it up against anyone. In Rick Hahn's presser yesterday, he essentially said, we had some things restricting us from making some trades that we wanted to do. Am I disappointed? Yes. But when this roster's healthy, we're a World Series competitor. Essentially what he said. And that was bullshit that I made up an hour before that press conference. And it just, we are force-fed as White Sox fans, the same regurgitated bullshit year after year after year. And I hate to say it, but nothing's going to happen and change with the White Sox until Jerry Reinsdorf dies and his family sells the team. As fucked up as that sounds, that's where I'm at. Yeah, the Sox have gone on. They're 2 games above 500 as of what's today? Wednesday, August 2nd. 2 games above 500 for the first time since April 20th.
What?
Yeah, 53 and 51. That is the first time they've been 2 games above 500 since April 20th. And tomorrow will be the first time the entire projected opening day lineup will be available to play.
Listen, I have to be that guy. I don't be surprised if they go on a run. Take it from me. I
won't be surprised. They have the easiest remaining schedule in Major League Baseball. They do. It's the division is there for the taking. The Twins' schedule over the next 3 weeks is brutal.
And I don't believe in them either.
Oh, me either. They're a bunch of frauds. Them and Cleveland. The Sox are by far the most talented team in the division. But they've underperformed. They have a manager who falls asleep in the dugout in the first inning. And just perpetually, the entire lineup has underperformed aside from Abreu and Andrew Vaughn, I would say. Like hitting wise, yeah, Tim Anderson started in the All-Star game, but guess what? Since May, when the baby mama allegations came out, Tim Anderson's been hitting 260. He's been hitting 260 and has a 74 weighted runs created plus. League average is 100. He has sharply declined since that news came out.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say that's why. I maybe the BABIP gods finally are catching up to Tim Anderson, but he has 1 home run since the Yankees doubleheader. 1. And he's not hitting as well as he should. Yohan Moncada is finally starting to hit the ball a little bit. Yes, Monty Grandal might be the worst hitter in all of baseball. The dude's been on base 38 times, I think, this year or something like that.
What?
Or maybe 38 hits. It might be 38 hits. I think it's 38 hits.
That's still rough.
And he has scored on when he's gotten a base hit this year, he has scored and come around on 1 of them. 1 time. It's asinine. And thank you to whoever's listening to this. I'm not pulling these stats out of my head. You can follow Jay Kuda on Twitter. Just tweets the most asinine White Sox stats I've ever seen. But it blows my mind how bad the lineup has been. Eloy's finally healthy. Then you just have a gaping hole in right field. Josh Harrison has the most home runs on the White Sox in the last 5 weeks.
What a weird team. You have a weird team, man.
That's all there is to it.
Like, how do you even explain this to some? Like, as you explain it to me, I admittedly sometimes I'd be just dazed off of baseball. It's a long ass season, and sometimes I just can't keep up. But just you explaining this to me, like, it's one of those seasons where you are just so aggravated, you're so annoyed because you know this team should be a World Series contender. But at the same time, the more you read into everything that's going on, you still can laugh about it because it's just like, what the fuck is going on over there?
I mean, that's the point where I'm at. Like, I still get mad, don't get me wrong. But as I watch, I mean, I would say I probably watch or listen to 90% of the games. I love listening to the game on the radio when I can't watch on TV. But, like, I'm at the point where I have my friends who are Cub fans who despise the White Sox telling me that they're sorry because they know how fun this should be for me right now because they remember how fun it was for them with that Cubs team. And they this just reminds me of like the 2018, 2019 Cubs who just perpetually underperformed. And that just, it doesn't make you feel good. And especially when one of the more renowned White Sox podcasters, bloggers, he's like, I think he writes for a few places as well. And he hosted a Twitter space yesterday and said, if the White Sox do not make the playoffs this year, he would not be surprised if one at a minimum of Tim Anderson, Yohan Moncada, and Eloy Jimenez were traded this offseason and a rebuild started. I wouldn't be either. I really wouldn't be either. But hey, Sox have the easiest remaining schedule in Major League Baseball from here on out. Lance Lynn had a good start finally. Lucas Giolito's been looking better. Who knows? We'll see. But something that we're both on the same page on is that we are excited for football season. Right. Full pads for Bears started, training camp fully underway, and reports seem to be pretty good across the board, offensively at least. Fields, I've been loving the videos I've been seeing from Fields. I'll be honest, his deep ball looks better, that's for sure. And I feel like every other tweet I see about the Bears at this point right now is about the chemistry that Mooney and Fields have. And that makes me feel good because I know people are doubting Darnell Mooney, and I get it. He's an undersized guy. People say he's not a true number one receiver. He had over 1,000 yards last year. He was very good. And now he is the true number one guy, the true number one threat on that offense. And I'm excited to see it. I really am, because this is a big make or break year for him.
Absolutely. And one thing that I implore all Bears fans to do is to keep an open mind. And because I know there's a lot of things that people are a little iffy about. You throw picks in and training camp. Oh my God, Fields is a bust. N'Keal Harry drops a pass. Oh my God, he's not going to work out. Kyler Gordon gets burned on a one-on-one. Oh my God, he can't play defense. Relax. Let me tell you something. There is a level of competition that is different on each and every team, and you are going to play accordingly to that. So the fact that I got to explain this to fans it's insane, but this is where we are. But just to talk about the Bears themselves, what I'm hearing from Fields is good. You know, it's not always great, but you know what? You can't expect that from a guy who's learning a new system. He got screwed over last year by a guy who just didn't want to see him succeed. He didn't want to see his team succeed unless if it was his way. So you have to give him some time. And then you hear about the running backs. You hear about Montgomery, Khalil Herbert, and Treston Ebner is fast, y'all. I've been here. He's fast. Yeah. He's fast as hell, and he's going to carve out a role in this offense. And then you go to the receivers. N'Keal Harry hasn't panned out so far in terms of what I've been hearing. Like he's made catches, he's made some drops. You know, it happens.
But guess what? A 7th round pick for a 1st round talent. End of the day, you're taking that risk in a year like this 10 times out of 10.
Exactly, and people like think that this 7th rounder is going to be an all-pro. It doesn't happen that way. It never does. So let's calm down on that. But Velus Jones is fast. He's showing that he's fast. His route running has reportedly gotten better. Thanks to October.
And speaking of Velus Jones, I am drinking all of the Kool-Aid when it comes to him, because I've just been seeing quote after quote from him that, he loves blocking. He loves doing whatever he can to make the offense better. I heard he had like the hit of the day at camp yesterday on a crackback block on a linebacker. And there's not many things I like more than a crackback from a wide receiver on either a defensive end or an outside linebacker. I just think that's so satisfying. And knowing that he's okay getting down in the trenches like that, I wouldn't be surprised to see him carve out the role as number one receiver on this team either.
It's going to be competitive, especially just for all the bodies that they have. Because I do think Mooney is going to always be that number one, but there's going to be guys who's going to challenge him. I've heard good things about Equanimeous St. Brown. I've heard Dante Pettis has had a connection with Fields. Byron Pringle, can't forget about him. There's guys on that roster that can make plays. Whether they can get open is the real question. That's going to be the biggest thing. I have no doubt that these guys can play football. They're on a football team for a reason. But who's going to be that number 2 guy is going to be the really, really big question. And truth be told, if we're talking about who's going to be number 2 guy, going off reports, Cole Kmet has been that number 2 guy. And if you
and
can
the
get
rest of the tight end group too.
Exactly. Yes. And if Cole Kmet can carve out a number 2 role on this offense, that's pretty damn good, especially for the expectations that they held for him when he got drafted. So that's one thing. Defensively, they're going to be much better than people think. They are going to be so much better, and I think scheme wise, it's going to fit everybody involved because it's more of aggression for them. You have guys like Roquan Smith, Nicholas Morrow is violent. I don't know if people see highlights of him play before he tore his ACL. He's fast and he is violent. Matthew Adams, he's fast. He has good, quick feet. He plays on special teams for a reason. And then you look at the secondary. Eberflus said something today. They are looking to possibly have a third safety position on the field. That speaks volumes. He's referring to DeAndre Houston Carson. He's referring to Elijah Hicks. He's referring to Dan Cruikshank. That is really, really good stuff, especially considering you have guys now in the secondary that you could possibly rely on. Kyler Gordon's still a rookie. Yeah, he still got a lot to prove. Jalen Johnson is an all-pro in my view. Mm-hmm. And then apparently Kendall Vildor is impressing Eberflus. I'm not sold on him, but I have to take the word for it. If he's impressing in camp, then I have to take the word for it. Mm-hmm. So I think for the Bears, we're not going to win a lot of games this year, but it would not be for a lack of trying, from what I'm hearing. Eberflus has the right ear for all this stuff. Once he gets the talent, I think everything's going to come together.
Oh, yeah. And I know you said that you don't think that the Bears are going to win a lot of games this year. Neither do I. I don't at all. I believe it was 670 the score in Chicago with their betting algorithm that they run, and it tends to be pretty successful. They simulated the Bears schedule a few hundred times within the last week or so. Bears ended up winning 8 games.
That's a win.
Oh, yeah.
That's a massive win.
Absolutely. And there's been a few other things that have been, I would say, noteworthy out of camp that make me happy. One, Doug Kramer and Sam Mustipher have been splitting reps with the first team at center. I know Doug Kramer, I think he was a 6th or 7th round pick out of Illinois, but he was a 4-year starter in the Big Ten. And he was all Big Ten, I think, once or twice. The dude can play. Yeah, small. He's small.
Question.
Yeah.
Was he like drafted low because he's an undersized guy? Because
he's not big. I think he's maybe 6 feet tall, but dude, he held his own in the Big Ten in a big way. And yeah, he came back for a 5th year with the COVID year, and I think he got his master's or something. But all right, he's listed at 6'1". I don't believe that. I've seen him in person. I don't think he's 6'1", but hey, 6th round pick. He's going to surprise some people this year. He's just a bad motherfucker. You don't start for 4 or 5 years in the Big Ten without being a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
And Bears fans are going to love him. Anything to keep Sam Mustipher off the field, if we're being completely honest, I'll be happy. Mm-hmm. There's one other thing with the offense line that we kind of have to talk about. It's the last black eye of the Ryan Pace era. Teven Jenkins most likely going to be shipped out of here sometime soon after Ryan Pace traded up for him, gave up 2 more additional draft picks to go and get him. You know, there might have been a reason that he was a 1st-round talent, but slipped at number 39 overall. And Ryan Pace said, you know what, we need to trade up and get him. And don't get me wrong, I loved the pick at the time, but none of us knew his back issues were that bad except for the Bears and the rest of the teams in the league. We didn't know that. That's why we loved it. And from all reports I've seen, Eberflus today in his presser said something along the lines of that Teven Jenkins hasn't been at the facility because his back injury has been rehabbing and he's going to be with the team. Well, it came out that that's not the case. He's been doing his rehab at the facility and just not partaking in team activities. So I don't know which side burned the bridge there, but it's not pretty.
It's one of this. It's sad because you look at his college tape and you're just like, how does this guy not fit in the new Bears regime? He's exactly what they want. But I do think one big thing about Poles, he's a character guy.
Yep.
I mean, you can't tell with all the damn Bears arrests this year, but he's a character guy. And with Teven Jenkins, it's sad because you knew that if he wasn't going to be on the right tackle, you were just hoping at the least he would be the right guard. He would be perfect for that. He'd been perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, that's why Michael Schofield was signed. That's why Riley Reif was signed. And I have no issues with the signings either. It's very smart. It's very smart for the Bears to sign those guys, especially with all the linemen that they drafted and going to develop. And then maybe in a couple of years, we'll see them all on the starting offensive line, which would be awesome. But it's sad, but I don't really hate it too much because it's not like we have no type of backup plan. And one of the biggest storylines in camp that a lot of people are talking about, but not many people are really paying attention to, Braxton Jones, he has the eye of this team. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about a guy that he's a mid-major, drafted in the 5th round. And now he's in contention to get a starting spot on the offensive line over Larry Borum.
Yeah.
Over I can't think.
I'm drawing a blank on the name too, but Braxton Jones, he's the big motherfucker from Southern Utah, I believe, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's whatever Big Sky, I think it is. I think that's the conference. Yeah. I don't know. But I mean, it's not often you have a 5th round pick out of a mid-major like that coming in, and he's the media darling, it seems like, up to this point.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing. Good front offices find those diamonds in the rough. And it's been a while since the Bears have had that.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, he hasn't proved shit on the field yet, but it gives us hope. And that's what we need as Bear fans right now, is we need hope.
That's all. And you know what? I think the fact that he's a guy that he feels like he's hell bent on getting better. That's the part that's getting me. And if I think the team knows that you're trying to get better every single day, they're going to see that and they're going to give you an opportunity. And that's a great part about this Bears coaching staff. They're going to make sure that you get fed, accordingly. And it's just good. I like what the Bears are doing. This is I feel like this is unprecedented what they're doing. Shuffling offensive line, see what's the best combination, and they go forward with it. And I think it's going to work out very, very well. Do I see Braxton Jones starting week 1? Probably not. I think Larry Borum has a leg up on him, which is no problem because Larry did some good things last year. He may not have the best of games, but you know what? He's a rookie. He was a rookie back then. He has some experience. He obviously has won over the new regime. So that's a good thing. But Braxton Jones, I mean, when these guys get injured and he takes that spot, I don't think he's giving that spot back just for all the reps he's getting. He's going up against the big boys. He's not going up against the 2nd and 3rd string. He's going up there with the top guys. So that's a really good sign. And you wonder how the rest of the guys are doing. You want Carter and Kramer. Like it's good that they're getting that type of burn. And you know what? If it comes down to it, season's over. Obviously, out of the playoffs, we get all those guys on the line, see what they can do. Mm-hmm. See what they can do, build on it for next season. You draft another guy, and then we're cooking. Like, we're just cooking.
And I have one other thing I wanted to touch on, too, that's been discouraging to hear from training camp. I saw a tweet yesterday that there's been a large amount of tight end arounds that they've been running so far out of camp. And I get wanting to get the ball in Cole Kmet's hands, but come on, can we leave that in the past?
Yeah.
Like,
listen,
I get that's very, very minor, but come on. I can't do it. Can't do it anymore.
Ben, it's okay. You want to know why? We deal with an inept offense for 3 years. I think we could complain about anybody that has a bad offense at this point because we can't. I don't listen. We're both young guys, but we will die very early watching a tight end around for the next couple of seasons. So yeah, no, I'm not tolerating it either. I'm completely on your side.
And I'll be remiss not to mention this, just on the topic of Pastor James with the Bears. Did you see that Mitch Trubisky quote from today?
Was today? I saw a
It was
quote from
either
him. I don't know
today.
if I
It
saw
was
a
either
quote.
today or yesterday. I forgot what it was, but essentially it was along the lines of that. He pretty much said that when I was with the Bears, I felt like I was playing the coach's game instead of my own game, and pretty much just confirmed everything that we've known about the last 4 years or 3 years, I should say.
Unfortunately for him, it doesn't seem like he is going to be the Steelers starter because Mason Rudolph took first team reps in practice today, which is
that's not a good look for me.
woof. Okay, not good, but you wonder, even though he had time in Buffalo, to learn from Daboll, and now he's under a new system. I believe Matt Canada is their offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh. You just wonder if the overall psyche of him is just completely screwed up just off of being coached by Nagy. And if that's the case, it's extremely sad because me and you have both talked about this numerous of times. We're rooting for him. If the Steelers made the playoffs because of Trubisky, I will be rooting for the Steelers.
Absolutely.
To win the Super Bowl because of Trubisky, because we know, the real ones know that it wasn't just him. Is he the most talented quarterback? Absolutely not. But he was a guy that was determined to learn and get better. Didn't happen because the coach didn't put in the work to make it happen. So I hope it does work out for him. I hope it does pan out that he will be the starting quarterback. Granted, it's not going to be for long because Kenny Pickett's waiting in the wings, but I will hope that will be the case. But it doesn't look like it's heading that direction, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I mean, next 2 weeks is going to be interesting seeing how things kind of shape out in camp and in preseason for the Bears. Season's right around the corner. But probably the biggest news in our worlds the last week or so is Vince McMahon retiring and Triple H assuming full creative control of the WWE and also becoming the head of talent relations. And within 1 week, the WWE product is interesting again.
Yep.
And it feels fresh. It's reminiscent of the black and gold NXT days where you didn't know what to expect. You feel the seeds for long-term storytelling in place at this point in time. Michael Cole sounds like he's having fun, and like it just the difference if you go back to when Vince is barking in his ear, and we hype Michael Cole up on this show. We both very much enjoy Michael Cole, but I haven't heard him call a match like him calling the main event at SummerSlam in so long, and I'm just excited to see him and McAfee calling big matches without Vince McMahon screaming in their ear from here on out.
You want to talk about an absolute masterclass of commentary? Michael Cole was the epitome of that on Saturday. Excellent job by him. He made the match so much more excited than that actually was. Which, by the way, you want to talk about a match that was an absolute it was a train wreck, but in the
best way possible.
Best way possible. And you know something? What do we say all the time on this show about WWE events, the big ones? Not Money in Bank is cool, like that. We consider that a big event. The prior ones that's completely slipping my mind right now. We talk about those. We're just like, yo, like they're good, but what about the big events? The big events is where the money needs to be made. And whenever we see the card, we're like, okay, sure. And you know what? That leaves us at low expectations. And every single time the low expectations are had from us, we are pleased. We are completely every single time. And now with Triple H at the helm, unfortunately, we're going to have those expectations back. We're going to expect week after week after week after week for this product to deliver. And do I have faith that will happen? I think so, because a lot of people are leaving the company. There's new, fresh faces that's coming in, and considering how NXT Black and Gold was a big success in my opinion. I know people a little bit indifferent on it because the new version of NXT, people like it. I love it, but
I enjoy it too. I enjoy it too. I think that making NXT into what it was intended to be developmental, in theory, it's awesome. Like that is what it should be. But just knowing what we had with the black and gold NXT, in my opinion, makes that adjustment more difficult for people because I don't know if it's going to go back to being that like indie darling, like long-term storytelling safe haven. But if it kind of becomes a little bit of a combination, that's a good thing. That's a good thing because I think now Triple H in charge. You're going to see the guys that you knew he liked from NXT getting their pushes. And you're going to see on the main roster if that theory pans out. You're going to see if guys like Ciampa, if he becomes a big star, because you know Triple H loves Ciampa. If he pans out, if Io Sky, what I think that's her name now, right? If she pans out, Dakota Kai, if she pans out, Johnny Gargano's gonna come back. I hate to tell it to you people, he'll be back.
Yeah,
he's gonna screw Ciampa out of the U.S. title next week. Raw's in Cleveland. Raw's in Cleveland next
didn't
week.
even think about that.
Yeah, Raw's in Cleveland next week. He's gonna screw Ciampa out of the U.S. title.
Ooh. Or can he help Ciampa win that U.S. title?
Either or.
Oh wow, I didn't think about that. But you know what?
You're gonna. I think Triple H is going to play the wait and see game with changing NXT back to black and gold NXT with the guys that he loves on his main roster, guys and girls he loves on his main roster now. Because Vince's thing was these indie darlings that you all love down there, they're not stars in my company. They don't have what it takes. Triple H is going to give his people the ball to see if they can run with it and see if they can be stars. And if it works, NXT is going to change right on back, in my opinion.
And I'm going to be honest with you. I would hate it. I would hate it because the main reason why I like this new NXT is because I feel like everything matters. From the vignettes, from the matches they have every week, from the character development you see in backstage segments, everything matters. In NXT Black and Gold, I'm not going to say that was the same thing. But what I will say is they had more of an emphasis on the in-ring stuff rather than the backstage stuff, which I think you need to find a balance of. And I don't think Black and Gold had that balance, at least in my opinion. The new NXT does that. But if you got to remember, Shawn Michaels and Triple H are running respective entities right now. So if they can bounce ideas off of one another, they're going to be more than successful. But I'll say this, though. For a guy in Triple H and for somebody that if you watch, because I was watching from 97 on Peacock, WWE Network, whichever one at that time, and how gradually Triple H gotten better, how much he gotten over. From a guy who's been there, I think he knows when to give people the chance, guys and the girls. Because let me tell you something. The women shined on Monday. They were the main point of Raw. It closed with Dominic Mysterio being the luckiest man on the planet, get choked by Rhea Ripley stars. like they making that stuff matters. They making this stuff matter. So I do think that going forward, we have a structure in place that's going to make everything matter. It's not going to be some throwaway matches. It's not going to be some stuff that we're not even going to remember the next week. Everything's going to matter. And I think that's what really, really like gets me, because I feel like with Vince, it was a thing where he just got tired and he didn't really care about what was going on until the big events came up. Because you look at the build-up to WrestleMania, it was kind of that. It was kind of like, I'll wait until the big four pay-per-views come up. So I'm excited. I'm extremely excited. But if you don't mind real quick, I'm going on a wrestling rant really quickly, because over the weekend, there was a lot of rave reviews about SummerSlam. Like, SummerSlam overall was a really good event.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's those people, Forbidden Door was better. SummerSlam was cool, but Forbidden Door was so much better. Kat Dennings literally tweeted, "I think I love WWE." And there are all the mouth-breathing, window-licking, basement-living weirdos saying, "Oh, well, you should probably watch New Japan Pro Wrestling." you should watch AEW. I'm gonna tell y'all, no one gives a fuck. Who cares? No one cares. Literally, nobody cares. I really want to know what is gained from telling people that enjoy one thing that you should enjoy what you like. Why does it matter so much that we have to, if it's the last thing you want on earth, that you want people to like what you like? Why does that matter to you so much? Why does wrestling matter to you that much? I understand if you don't have a partner. I understand if you're a dropout of high school or college. I understand if you bomb every job interview. I understand if you're afraid of the green thing that we call grass outside. But please, I beg of you, wrestling cannot be the only hobby that y'all have. You can't live through it. You'll scare everybody away. I know we're talking about wrestling, but you know what? We're in different situations. We're in pretty good situations. But for them, no. Please, let people enjoy what they want. Literally. That's it. Why is that so hard?
And do you want to know what I think my biggest takeaway has been the last few days? I'm sure you saw the clip of Triple H on the Impulsive podcast saying that people can love work rate. People can love the guys who do all the flippy shit, who can put on 5-star match after 5-star match. But guess what? At the end of the day, if you don't make people feel something and develop semblance of a character, it doesn't matter. Was Triple H the best worker? No. Was he good?
No.
He was okay. He was okay. But it was believable. And he built up a character, and you believed everything he said as a wrestler for the most part. And if there's going to be more guys like that, let's look at this. I'm going to look at it this way. 50 years from now, when people look back on professional wrestling, are people going to remember Triple H's in-ring career more? Are they going to remember someone like Kenny Omega's in-ring career more? And to a lesser extent, I'll say this, AJ Styles. How about that? Since he has been in WWE.
I mean, it's not even close. It's not even close. And the main problem is there's a lot of people who love the gimmick of I wrestle good. I'm going to tell y'all something. If you like those guys, good for you.
And I do.
Good for you.
I enjoy them. But guess what? The best of the best for them, the guys like AJ Styles, the guys like Seth Rollins, they make you feel something. They have a character developed. And then you have other people. Why do you think Ricochet hasn't gotten over in the WWE? Why do you think John Morrison, Johnny Mundo, Johnny Nitro, Johnny All Elite, whatever he's called, Johnny Impact, why do you think guys like them don't get over? It's because they can't develop a character.
And you know what? I feel bad. Johnny Impact, I feel he got the rug pulled up from under him so many times.
I agree. I agree because I enjoy him, but just that was a name that came to my mind. If I'm being honest,
I understand. I completely.
Or we could even say, hell, I'll throw Dolph Ziggler in there. How about that?
Okay, that's fair. Dolph Ziggler to me has always been that guy that I feel like he
should have taken that next step, but never did.
Yeah, and I think the argument can also be made that he's had the rug pulled from under him a couple of times, which is fair. But if you look at it like this, Seth Rollins and AJ Styles, two guys that you mentioned, two of the biggest stars in WWE right now, they were indie darlings at one point. And you know where they developed their character? They developed their character in the WWE. Imagine that. Imagine the character that, because if you hear about WWE, they're like, oh, they don't know how to build characters. They don't know how to do that. That's just simply not true. If Dean Ambrose wasn't Dean Ambrose in WWE, will he be as big of a star as he is in AEW? I don't think so. And you can say that about a lot of guys that's in AEW right now. If they didn't go through the big leagues, as I call it, would AEW be calling? No. But then again, if they have zero charisma, they'll probably want them in AEW. Because all they care about is the work rate. All they care about is what Dave has to say. And I think that, to me, by the way, caring about what another grown man thinks that just watches wrestling is absolutely weird. you are not going to get any validation from another grown man saying, hey, dude, you had a good match. Who cares? I don't care about you. What do you do for me? You don't pay my bills. Well, why would I care about what star rating you give my match?
Yeah. And I think that's going to change. I really think that's going to change with Triple H at the helm. And it sounds crazy, but I think you're going to start seeing some of these marks come crawling on back to the old Fed, because guess what? They all loved NXT. And I really, really think it's going to go back to being more centered on work rate. But like, no, you want to know what it's going to be? It's going to be like Nitro when the cruiserweights carried the work rate aspect of the show, but you still had the NWO. You still had those type of people carrying the top of the card. And that's a perfect wrestling show. It really is.
Yep.
And it's awesome. And you want to know what? I have a bold prediction off the weekend, completely off the wall. You want to know who's going to be a world champion within 3 years in the WWE?
Who?
It's going to be Logan Paul will be carrying the WWE championship within the next 3 years, if not sooner.
Hey, man. I won't be surprised if his opponent's going to be one or two people. Montez Ford or Bad Bunny. Hey, man, listen. Logan Paul, he got something.
I hate it.
If he goes full time, they are going to give him a shot. Because I don't think you can deny at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's I think it's something when you're second, when Pat McAfee had the second best celebrity match at a pay-per-view.
Yeah, that Bad Bunny match, I look back at him just like that is the blueprint of what a celebrity match looked like. Yep. He was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so obviously now it looks like the build to the Cardiff pay-per-view is fully underway. I think what's going to happen, I think Drew's going to take the titles off of Roman. I don't know if it's going to be – I don't see them sending – it's the first stadium show in England in 30 years. Do you really think they're not going to send them home with Drew McIntyre standing tall with both those titles? He has not had his moment winning a title like that in front of a live crowd. That'll be the loudest pop quite possibly of all time if he beats Roman for the titles in the United Kingdom. And Roman Reigns doesn't need the titles to main event WrestleMania against The Rock. He doesn't. He doesn't. He at all. And I also, I think I know who's going to take the tag team titles off of the Bloodline, the Usos. Ooh. I think it's going to be Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens.
As it should be.
It should be. I've seen that going around on Twitter, and I need that idea. Like, I need air to breathe, because you know Sami Zayn is going to get screwed over by the Usos, the Bloodline, at some point.
Yep.
And you know he's going to go crawling back to KO, and I think that'll be a great story.
And you know what? I do think that because Triple H is not afraid to turn certain wrestlers that need to be turned. We saw it with Becky Lynch. We saw it with Ronda Rousey on Saturday. Now, I do think with Kevin Owens, he can work whatever. He can work heel, face, it doesn't matter. And I would love if they took the tag team championships off of them. How are they going to build to that is going to be the real question. But I have an idea that's going to piss some people off. Drew winning at Clash of the Castle, he won't be champion for long. He will get his ass whipped by the Usos, and then comes Theory.
God damn it.
Cashing in and having maybe a 1 month reign as champion, and that will be it. He will not be champion for long. I'm just assure people that he will not be champion for long. But what I will say is, I do think at this moment, that championship, let's say if Drew does win at Clash of the Castle, that championship is being placeholder for one man.
We know who it is, and it makes your skin crawl.
Actually, there's one man before that we're going to get to that.
Oh, Seth
Rollins. Seth Rollins is being placed. He's going to be the guy eventually, and then Cody Rhodes is going to take the championship, and then I'm just going to turn off WrestleMania and go straight to bed. But I do think that's what's going to happen. I think Theory will be champion after Clash, and it will be a very, very, very short reign.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. I really would, because Theory getting the strap is inevitable at this point, and it's working because I just want to see him lose. So what they're doing with him is working. So I guess they can be happy about that. But next month, the build-up can be very interesting because that card's going to be stacked. There's no way that card will not be stacked. I don't know what it's going to look like, but that main event is going to be a banger. That match is going to be hard-hitting and just I'm excited for it.
And the crowd's going to be nuts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that crowd's going to be high.
It's going to be the best part of the show, honestly. And especially after what we saw with that crowd in Texas this past Monday.
Oh, yeah. That crowd stunk. It did not – that Raw did not deserve that crowd.
No.
Did not at all, because they were too silent for that Montez and Seth match. That hurt my heart. Those two of my favorites. I'm like, damn, like.
And as we wrap up this show, I have one wish for Triple H to bring back, if he is, I don't know if this is even his call. Let fans bring signs back into the arena.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a dumb thing, but there's just something looking back at the old pictures where literally every other person in that stadium had a sign.
Yep.
People say, oh, it blocks the person behind you. It's not being held up the entire time.
Exactly.
It's during entrances. It's during like end of matches. It's not the whole time. Bring them back. Bring them back. And it's such an like old man complaint for me, but come on.
It really is, because what was this complaint in 1999?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
Yeah, because it never happened. It literally never happened. Like, who? I guarantee you, if someone said, "Oh, I'm gonna bring a sign," they'd be like, "Oh, I'm gonna bring a sign too," and then the next one brings one, and they'd all just have signs. If you see a crowd from 1999, it is littered with signs, littered to the point where you're like, okay, maybe they can't see, but you know what? The guy behind him got a sign too, so he's just going to raise it higher than the next person.
Yep.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Yep. But on that note, that is going to wrap up this week's episode of the Goonery. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe to the show. Leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts. If you made it this far, we'd appreciate it. And we will see you next week.